Oh, so elegant, Andrew. Like that beginning was just so gorgeous, and then lots of nice power in the D section, and then just a nice homey feel towards the end. I love that little oboe solo that you've got going on in here. I'm gonna jump back and just refresh my memory about the instrumentation which you've got here. Yeah. So alto flute. He kind of added one more instrument than I was sort of allowed for in your wins. You have four members of the flute family, but I will give you a break because you only have one oboe, so that's all good. So let's jump back ahead and we'll just continue our tradition of, for at least for this phase of this challenge, of looking at the ending part last and then jumping back by degrees. Now the cool thing is, I mean, you got a few things in here that obviously need huge fixing, like like a lot of the notes here are not even in the range of the cello, right? So, yeah, so like these all these low notes should be played by double basses, stuff like that. So almost maybe you were in a hurry at the end, but all the same, I mean, there's just a really It's just a very nicely scored, really, really nicely scored work. So, um, I'm not so convinced by the patterns continuing on after the double bar here at E. I think that we kind of lose the whole effect, the whole trick of the G holding on, and then you pretty much let everything kind of decay except for just this one single low B, which is in pretty close proximity. Well, not too close, but in near enough proximity to the contrabassoon that it's almost coming up to meet it, right? So I'm just not totally, but I mean, look, this is how you heard it. This is how you want to interpret it. It's like not that your choice in doing this doesn't make the orchestration wrong or bad or anything like that. Yeah, but I sort of miss my octaves reaching forward here, and yeah. Anyway, and then just very simple, like you don't have tenuto marks on this, just da 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 bum 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 da da da. So maybe slur, da 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 da. Right, might be another way of interpreting this. I notice that like you have a lot, like here the ending part, you have some dashed slurs and you have a couple slurs here and there, but you don't really have, like, for any of this melody, none of it is slurred, right? It's all just like plain notes. And there's also, like, there aren't any nuances, right? I'm just kind of checking back over my criteria screen. When you get here, what does Barvinsky say? He says piano espressivo, right? So, I mean, at the very least, there should be something expressive about the melody as it goes forwards. And to me, that signals nuances, right? There has to be something, a little bit of push and pull, a little bit of breathing in the phrase. Now, this is kind of cool, the way that you have the first horn take over for the bassoon. You don't necessarily have to dovetail this or anything like that. I think it's fine the way that it works. However, I'm a little uncertain about just the weight here in the upper part. And part of this is just your mock-up. It's just playing this back really loud, where it should be a little softer if it really were piano flutes. But, I would not feel bad about this being marked pianissimo and the horn and trombone here being marked piano. Just so that and then right in here, the clarinet's being pianissimo too. Because, like, the melody has got to be stronger than the accompaniment. Right here, the accompaniment is just so loud in the mock-up. Well, piano, I mean, I would still mark it down because I'd want the balance between the lower melody and the upper accompaniment. I'd want to try to control it. Now, this is brilliant, but, like, this doesn't need to be triple P. I think it could just be pianissimo, right? So just have all of these parts pianissimo together, and then have your melody, your lower melody, be piano. And I think that this will balance beautifully. However, I also feel that this section right in here would probably be better with two horns playing octaves. Like, I mean, I love the sound of solo trombone. I love the sound of trombone working duo with other instruments, especially trumpets. But I feel that right in here, you get a bit of a boxy sound with a, trumpet, like middle register trumpet, middle register horn working together like this. It just doesn't have the same kind of glow, right? I feel that the overtones from the trombone below sort of box in the horn above. Now, I mean, if that's the color that you want, that's cool. But yeah, I just feel it sort of lacks subtlety. You know what I mean? So here you're saying piano, triple P crescendo only for this part? What about these other people? So crescendo to pianissimo, right? I guess. Yeah. So yeah, so I think that all the more reason for this part to be a little bit louder. What is going on in the music? Barvinsky says doloroso, and he has a big fat crescendo mark here, right? So which you've only put in one part, like, and then we have it here in the melody. Yeah, so da 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 dum. But what happens here is that the part above starts to become a melodic part. Da 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 dum. Right, which is why he puts the doloroso. He wants it to really get a nostalgic, emotional, maybe a little schmaltzy here. Right, so I think that bringing these back up to pianissimo rather than triple P, having these parts at pianissimo as well, in the upper winds, flutes, and here clarinet, even though it's a lower part. And then put in the push here. Push to everybody push together, right? And so that this comes through here. Da 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 dum dum. And I think here you could push up to, everybody has a destination, right, what it is, whether it's mezzo forte or mezzo piano or something like that. And then you can ease off rather than pushing forwards, right? Because like here you have these brass that are getting louder, but what are they leading to? They're leading to soft winds. So I think that the center of the crescendo is right here on the downbeat. It's not past it, right? So put the crescendo, put diminuendo after it with all the parts, but definitely push forwards with your accompaniment here so that we get the implied leap. And this is all really cool right in here. Flute and this little alto flute thing happening here, and then ya da da da. This should balance actually fairly nicely, right? And that this viola is holding on to their E here, and then trading off to or handing off, dovetailing and on a couple of pitches to just like the strings doing the whole da 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 and so on. I think that that's nice. A little push forward to mezzo piano and back. And, and then just oboe. I felt that this was all really gorgeous. Just, split this up amongst your lower strings. Right? I mean, at the very least, I would say give these lower intervals to the basses and these upper intervals to the cellos. I mean, the third pitch of this 4-part harmony, the third pitch down, is definitely within the range of the cellos, but it's just so much divisi here. Just have divisi basses and divisi cellos, and you'll get a beautiful sound. Now, I really liked the control here. The alto flute trading off to the clarinet, trading off to the bassoon, and then just this last little gush from the harp. That was such great scoring, Andrew. I mean, just really fascinating, really, just really caught my attention, and also this little roll right in here, setting up the alto flute. Perfect way to bring that instrument back into the sound picture. And now back to D, right? We are evaluating this in reverse order, so I'll jump back to the beginning in 10 or 15 minutes. But let's look over this, give it a nice thorough look. I love the rolled harp here, and then the way that this sort of drips off of it. Do 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 do. Okay, so I think that there's a few issues here. Yeah. Okay, so I'm not a huge fan of dashed line crescendo things. I think it's perfectly fine to say poco a poco crescendo and have no dashed line. Like the less horizontal information, linear horizontal information, the better. Like the more you can condense it down to something that everybody just reads and immediately knows, and they don't have to look at any more dashes, the better. Okay. All right. So I feel that like the scoring is nice, but I feel that these cascading octaves need to be stronger. Okay, that's my biggest concern here. Because you've chosen a nice, just a lovely combination here. You've got your got your alto flute and your clarinet right here, working in octaves, and you've got the you got your bassoons here playing the harmony below. So that is kind of has this nice radiance to it, right? And my concern is that it will just basically swallow a lot of what's going on here in these cascading octaves. Is there somebody else who could be helping out here? Like maybe like flute could be playing the top two F sharps, and then right here, like then maybe you could have your oboe play, and then so on, just down the line, just kind of grabbing some pitches as you go. I just feel that it's a little weak the way that it's scored, and and you're able to use it several bars in a row. So I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. But just maybe there could be some more support somewhere, somebody, somehow. It could even be something like where the harp rolls and then starts to play these cascading octaves going all the way down. And you'd even do like I think some people have done some similar things where they did like they alternated like F sharp down to G flat, and then F sharp G flat, F sharp G flat, and that way the same note didn't get plucked twice, which made it all the stronger. But I just feel it just needs a little something. And this is really lovely right in here, like the flute working with the alto flute and the clarinet and so on. So far you haven't done any scoring that's too hard on the alto flute in terms of its ability to contribute to what's going on. Of course, like right in here, when you have the violins come in and double the alto flute, it's pretty much just going to get swallowed up, and then you stop from there, so that's fine. And then just have like oboe take over as a contrasting sound, and then trumpet, and then so on, and then flute, and So I mean, it's a nice way of changing the timbral quality of the strings, right? Just giving them different shape and so on. You could have had an English horn, just very useful for certain roles, certain things. Like for instance here, like the alto flute really is such a delicate instrument. The English horn could have taken over here, right, and then given you a different quality yet again with the oboe and so on. But I can understand that you want something that really is different, right? The alto flute really has a different quality when combined with the strings than the English horn. Now, it's really strange, either my eyes or my ears or your staff pad playback is playing a trick on you, because I'm hearing a blue note of D natural in here in the mock-up, whereas I'm seeing a D sharp in the score. So anyhow, just watch out for that and maybe do a little more proofing, audio proofing. Yeah, but it corrects by the time you get to here. And, once again, like poco poco crescendo, once you get to the place where you're going, so mezzo forte, and you could even, like, look at the pointlessness of having this dashed line under all these rests, right? So just poco poco crescendo, and then here, mezzo forte, same thing. Like, mezzo forte crescendo here, no dashed line. Everybody will understand that you're intended to go from mezzo forte to forte here. And I would actually be tempted to just say like having your crescendo, like since now you're going to a different function here, then have a new marking, mezzo forte, and then poco poco crescendo. The rule that I use is 2 bars. So like just using the word crescendo, no dash line, then I think the implication is very clear that will cover 2 bars of information if you're starting from a softer to a louder dynamic. Okay? Not always, but mostly. But like 3 bars and more, poco poco crescendo. It's just the safest way to approach this, I think. Okay, and then this is coming in. So I've got to say that like it just feels really relaxed. Okay, and I know why it is relaxed, okay? And that is that you may have disregarded the way that I set things up in the video. and you may have just gone with the tempo markings that were on the piano score and not really listened to the interpretation by Violina Petrochenko, right? Which just makes it sound incredibly, enormously exciting. And where does that excitement come from? It comes from the amping up of the tempo, right? So a lot of things which feel a little, I don't know, clumsy is not the right word, but it feel a little, a little kind of tromping around in this section here. And just kind of feel like a slow burn where it should be catching on fire really quickly. A lot of that is, it just follow the tempos of Violina's performance, okay, and you will get that. Just insert that into your mock-up and insert that into your score markings, and then I think you will get a really, really exciting climax here. Because like I feel that it's supposed to be stressed here. Da 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 ba 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 da 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 ba ba da 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 da. You know what I mean? It just really, I feel we're missing an opportunity to just tighten the tension tighter and tighter and tighter, right? It just, instead of it being so relaxed. And then like a lot of the effects that you have built into this just really leap out, and suddenly they make a lot more sense. Now, it's interesting the way that you're interpreting the harmony here. Like it's a very harmonized passage. It's what I call like sort of the Ravel passage, because the harmony is very much like his scoring in, say, Gaspard de la Nuit, right? It's really of that period. Slightly phantasmagorical. So you've got doubled flute and okay, we don't know who is what. Is this one flute? Is this two flutes? I'm assuming two flutes here, right? You're going to you're just like, it really is carrying a lot of responsibility and a lot of weight there. And you're interpreting the harmony here in sort of rhythmic ways, which is a kind of a cool idea, and it kind of helps to break up the monotony of just going back and forth in octaves like this. Right, so I think that that's cool too, and I like the rhythm. But like one thing I will say, it's less solid. It's less of a solid kind of a tapestry or a kind of a painting, or it doesn't have that same kind of really convincing solid chordal kind of a feel to it. So it's a place where I'm wondering whether or not like a horn pad or the heavy brass kind of warming up to enter this part with more aggressive qualities might have like really made this a much more solid kind of thing without sacrificing any of this other motion, which I think is lovely. All right. Okay, so now we're entering into this. Everything's sort of staggered. There's like new sections are starting on the last bar. Yeah, so I don't think there's anything too different from what's going on here and what's going on the next screen. So let's just jump to the next screen. So just kind of some questions here. Do you really intend every single one of these notes to be played separately? Like all the way through here, you really want it bum 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 bum. And do you really intend like for this to go on without any kind of indication of like, is it staccato? Is it accented? What is the articulation style here? And I mean, certainly shouldn't this be accented? Shouldn't there be like more stuff here? Now, you've taken the little rests and so on that were in the piano part that sort of made a little bit of room around the octaves and some other things in order to make those clearer in the piano score. But since this isn't a piano part, you don't need to have those. You could put back in the pitches that are being left out by these rests. So you have more like a curve that goes up and a curve that goes down and comes back, right? rather than kind of a little waltz, boom, doot, doot, boom, doot, doot. So, boom, da 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 da, or da 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 da, right? Or da 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 da, da 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 da, or da 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 da. Do you know what I mean? So that it's more in line with some of this other motion that you've got on. But I mean, having said that, since you have just like the constant triplets happening, well, they're not really triplets because this is 12/8, but you know what I mean. It makes this these gaps less of a problem. But there's a kind of there's a sort of an approach, like, do you really want to just set it and forget it? Like, once you have got the functions of the instruments that you want, do you just want to leave them there and then just add on more things? Or do you want, is it in any way possible to evolve this material in a way that sort of adds interest, like contrasts of color and progressions of texture and things like that, till you're just positively screaming your head off when you get to here? Would that be possible? Because, like, obviously you're a gifted orchestrator, you have got a real ear for color and for drama, right? Is there something more that could have been done here to just really, just like amp up the suspense more and more and more and more, rather than kind of setting a level of thunderousness and then just continuing on with it? And by the way, I think that this would sound terrific if you were to go up to that precipitoso speed that I've got, that I should just say that Violina has got in her performance. I think you should go back to that and just play with tempos and things. Yeah, so I mean, yeah, this is a really good feature, numbering repeated bars, rather than having like just the the repeat bar mark. The players really like to continue to read it, at least wind and brass players and so on, string players. Percussionists don't have a strong preference, but yeah, but I think that this is the right way to go about this particular repeated bar. Yeah, so I mean, it's like nothing doesn't work, right? I'm just wondering if you could find other ways of making it work as well. This is kind of nice. I just really want the articulation marks here. That I'm wondering if, like, the triplets continuing on is like messing with a da 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 da. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not so much that it's throwing off the rhythm, but more that it is throwing off the specialness of the melody right in here. And just nobody's going to have any problem hearing this melody up here. But you know something? Is that you could have added another octave on here. Just had your violins divisi in octaves. Right. Da 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 da. And then here I would just have instead of jumping up an octave on top of this, add the octave below. And that solves a lot. And I'm really glad that you're leaving out your alto flute player. This is where they can, be checking Facebook. They can be hanging out with us on Orchestration Online during this epic climax here. Yeah, and then some cool stuff happening in contrabassoon and so on. A little bit of weight there. But, I still feel that the melody is a little weak, in terms of how many people are doing what. Like, trumpet, you've got a trumpet, right? So that is not quite enough. I just think you need more stuff. I mean, you have so much going on in the doubling of the, or not doubling, but the interpretation of the, of sort of all of the arching motion, right? Then I just feel that there's not enough focus on the melody, beefing up the melody and making it stronger. So that would be my main concern with this section, and also just like clarifying what is the articulation style. Are these slurred? Are they accented? Are they staccato? What's going on here? I think that really needs to be because there might be a tendency for these players to play staccato, and you might you might hear it and think, oh, geez, those are supposed to be slurs and so on. So it just feels a little unclear the way that it's scored. And I feel that these little bits of melody, da 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 da, are really unclear when you have the constant triplets going through them, and sometimes supported by the cellist and sometimes not. And it's just a little, yeah. I just feel it needs a little bit more support. And look, and then you add trombones on top of that. They're not helping out with the melody. They're continuing on with this. So it really is a huge amount of accompaniment and not a lot of melody. So I just say watch out for that. And then as to the role of the bass drum, it really starts to eat up more and more of the sound picture because of its overtones, right? There isn't any, thunk, dun 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 thunk. So like with the role of the bass drum, we lose like the big thumping emphasis on the downbeat, right? It could have been a timpani roll, slightly softer, and the bass drum going thump, right? At least the timpani you could have a few different pitches on the timpani that would line up harmonically with what was going on above. But anyways, I just really thought it was very cool. All my gripes aside, really, really nicely scored, really fun. And now back to the very start. And I feel that there's a bit of a misunderstanding here, which we're seeing in a lot of scores here towards the end. And that is of what's going on here with the a tempo. All right. Here we have 6/4 slow time, so one beat per quarter note. Rather than usually like in faster compound time, you just beat the middle of the bar, like the downbeat and the middle, right? Kind of like 6/8, is like strong, strong and a strong and a strong and a strong and a, right? Strong, weak, weak, strong, weak, weak, strong. So on the strong beat is when the baton goes, and that is what happens here in the 12/8, right? So it's it's really the conductor is beating in 4, like ba da da ba da da ba da da ba da da, right? But like what Barvinsky means by a tempo here is that he wants the dotted quarter note here to be equal to the quarter note here, right? So what's happening here is that your playback and just to all intents and purposes your score is basically saying, oh well, like we're still at quarter note equals 88, which is maybe like a third as fast as it needs to be, or excuse me, it's a third less fast as it should be, right? So yeah, so that's why things feel a little draggy in here compared to the piano part. And then further on, like as we progress, there's an implication of adding a little bit more speed here and a little bit more speed here and even more speed, and then finally by the time you get to this crash boom crash place, you were just really just tearing along, which is why I marked it precipitoso, right? So yeah, I was kind of hoping with the template I would be able to I would really show people like what are the changes, and then that whole change between quarter note and dotted quarter note just didn't seem to get through. So like that's why these next parts feel kind of draggy. All right, but like having said all that, I think that it's really cool how elegant this is, and I think that part of that is because you've got the alto flute working in octaves here. In octaves over the clarinets, this might be a place where the conductor might bring the clarinets down a little bit. Seeing as how they're sort of at the top of their Chalumeau register, so that might be a little stronger than wanted. But the players usually just balance all that stuff themselves. Then here we got a nice roll in the harp to start things off. It's just a really gorgeous start. If I'm talking a little faster than normal, it's because I've got I sort of have to wrap this up. I don't want to rush through it, but I do have like a big business meeting in about an hour that I got to get to. So I will give you all the information you need, but it might be a rapid fire delivery, so apologies. So this is also really gorgeous right in here, the muted violas and the way that it all harmonizes right in here. I really love this. Once more, elegant and progressing the texture here, so that it really has an emotional story, and just a little bit of muted trumpet in here. Right here, there was a bit of a balance problem in the mock-up, of the oboe just kind of getting a little swallowed by the clarinets, but that wouldn't happen in real life, especially like these lower tones. It's like the mock-up is saying, oh yeah, we won't really go as loud as an oboe would naturally go down there on an E and so on. So it's the mock-up that's the problem, not the oboe. And then this is really lovely right in here, the combination of all these elements. So pushing to mezzo forte here in the clarinets is going to affect the alto flute a bit, but not too badly, but still just, if you were to bring down the clarinets faster, then this would be a lot more noticeable. And also, the fact that you have your muted strings, very soft, means that this line right in here, which is crucial, doesn't really play much of a role in harmonizing with the alto flute, right? Because of the difference in dynamic. So you might want to rethink this. Maybe you left out the crescendo here. I don't know. But I think that it's just a little too soft to contribute. And there also was like a kind of a lack of different definition here. Da 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 da. Like we really needed to kind of hear the violas articulate on this. And one of the problems why they sound so kind of like unclear is because you've slurred across the dotted rhythm here, right? Try not to do that. Like here, you avoided it in other places, but you did it here, right? So just try not to slur across a dotted rhythm if you want that ta-ta, the real, the clarity of rhythm there. Okay, and then continuing on here, this is nicely scored. It's just, pretty much exactly what it is in the piano part, which is very cool. But what's really cool here is how you have little bits and pieces of these of the figuration for the left hand being doubled by different instruments. So sometimes like bassoon, sometimes a touch of horn, kind of picking up and taking it higher than, sort of like working in octaves with the cellos, and and then bringing in the violas here and so on, and then just like little back and forth, a little Tchaikovsky sixth, which works better with slurs, by the way, is what it's intended to be. And look, I mean, why are you putting dashed slurs and things? I mean, there is no source material that you are violating, possibly. You're the orchestrator. You just decide, don't put in a dashed slur if you know what you're doing, right? If that's what you want, write it in. If it's not what you want, don't write it in. You're the orchestrator. You make the decision. All right, and then yada-da-dum. That's all cool. A little bit of French horn there. Yeah. Bum, bum. It's all really nice. There actually is one thing that I am not too convinced by, and that is this da-da-da-dum. Just feels a little bit too much like Addams Family. Da-da-da-dum, da-da-da-dum. It just feels a little too deliberate. See, like, it's fine in this upper part because it's on top of the figuration, but like from below, I just feel it's like saying, hey, look at this next bar. It's like a finger pointing at the next bar, like sort of like too many upsweep glissandos. So I'm just not too convinced by this. All right. So now, continuing on. This is so cool right in here, this little touch of trumpet. Very, very nice. Bum, ba, bum. Just gives it that emphasis that it needs. You hold it back a little bit dynamically. And look here, you do not need this dash, especially going from mezzo piano to mezzo forte, right? I just put the crescendo here on the downbeat. Forget about the dash line. And just let it be what it is. Right. And then you come in a little early, bum, bum. You're kind of reorganizing your material before the rise up to the A minor chord here. That's all good. Yeah, and then like these clarinets just sort of interacting with each other. That's really beautiful. And a little bit of oboe on top there. Nice. With then answering with flute, just giving a different color on top. And this is all working great down here with the cellos. A little pizzicato, arco. It's all really great, Andrew. I mean, it's like kind of no complaints or observations or corrections or anything. Nicely done. Now here, though, my constant bugaboo with people using niente hairpins. Okay, so it's completely unnecessary. You want these strings to disappear as the line goes upwards, right? So all you need to do is just write diminuendo to piano, diminuendo to pianissimo or even triple P. It's all good. And you don't even need that. You need is just the diminuendo to sort of get out of the way. Really, seriously, only use the niente hairpin when everybody's paying attention to the part that's going niente, right? And if that is so, there must be nothing else going on at the same time because it is such a soft effect. So fade ins, fade outs, instruments playing at that level, the really, really difficult level to hear, the clarinets down really, really soft or subtones on the saxophones, that kind of thing. That should be stuff where the audience is paying attention to it, right? Because it is a special effect. Now here you're using a special effect that is intended to cause wonder and consternation amongst the critics, but nobody can hear it, so it doesn't really matter. So you could have just had just standard hairpins here with nothing at the end of them, or standard hairpins with pianissimo at the end of them, and you get exactly the same effect that you were asking for here. And if you're going to get that same effect anyways, why not just score it that way? Like score it the simple way, without the fancy hairpin. All right, so this is kind of floating upwards, our lovely wandering fellow right here. And then here you have a little bit of contrary motion. That's really cool. And then, same thing in here. Da, da, dee, 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 with the clarinet coming in to complete the phrase, sort of. Yeah, and then nice big roll on your harp and tremolo, triple P. That's so cool. One critique would be that it feels a little incomplete with the interruption here, right? Do 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 do, and you're also going like below the level of what a cello can play, right? So these are kind of double bass parts, right? Seems to be a bit of that in your scoring. Really watch out. To the extent where I'm wondering whether or not these were actually intended to be like tenor clef parts or treble clef parts or something, and they ended up in the wrong place, or maybe you weren't catching it, or something happened. But anyways, these are double bass parts until you get to the C. Same thing here with this low A. Yeah, but like we interrupt our wandering melody, and then something comes back in here, and then it completes itself. I'm not so keen on that being interrupted like that. I just feel you're missing, the sudden stop in it. Kind of. I don't know. I'm wondering if you left something out by accident. That's my, that's my pondering thing, and like the audience will wonder too. It's like, did something get left out here? But I like the sort of interplay here between the doubling of the different wind quality with the strings and so on. That's nice, and the little bridging thing here and the clarinets and so on. All right, now. Yeah, there was like a little harmony in here that perhaps you didn't intend. Just taking a quick look at the original part here, just to make sure that you got it right. Yeah. Yeah, I kind of wonder whether or not this was actually intended to be a unison, but you just scored the notes wrong. Yeah. All right, so we get here. So, all right. Some feedback on this is that, like, this section doesn't, it does get louder, all right, in a couple of bars here, but I don't think it's meant to be really huge. However, you taking it wherever you like, that is cool. If it gets really huge, then we lose some of the musical meaning in here. The restless undercurrent under the calm exterior, right? So the exterior has gotten so hot under the collar that the restless undercurrent is now really hard to hear. So like you can push at this scoring, and actually this is way too low for the cello. It should be an octave higher, right? Maybe that's what you intended. But you can make this louder and louder and louder, but unless it's got some support from like your lower winds, and so like maybe here like middle winds, like if you had here's where like an English horn would have been really great to double this with, just to give it more power. So unless we have something helping out here, and this pizzicato, maybe you could have staccato contrabassoon or something. Without that, it just basically gets smothered by everybody else doing things. Like you've added these alternating clarinets. Once again, it kind of doesn't make any sense without a slur, right? Like without it going diddle diddle diddle, and then the other part going doggy doggy, and then you get this sort of like kind of wagga 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 kind of a sound. Yeah, so just jumping back and forth between the parts doesn't, it's a fun thing to do, but it doesn't necessarily like achieve anything different than if they were just playing single, the same pitches all the way through, except for maybe just like avoid boredom. Yeah, and maybe some slurs here. Da 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 da. Anyways, this the treatment of the melody here is kind of fun. Trumpet and horn in octaves, with the trombones playing harmony below. Just, really, really simple scoring right there. We got some doubling here on the melody with our viola and violin, first violin. And I almost feel like if you're going to throw in piccolo here, you should almost like jump up with the violins, or maybe add divisi octaves here or something, just to really kind of keep the piccolo from just being too squeaky all by itself all of a sudden, and just to also to help the strings gain a little bit of power here right when you're pushing your trumpet all the way up to A, written A, sounding G. Anyway, so that was my sort of fast talking conclusion to evaluating your score. I think it's really strong, Andrew. I mean, I've been seeing like stronger and stronger scoring from you, and you already brought a really, really powerful game from the first score I ever looked at by you. So excellent work on this. I mean, what I'm most impressed with is not so much the strong parts, although they're scored nicely. And it's like certainly how to turn on the power. What was I was most impressed with was like the delicacy and the attention to detail, and I just felt that you really have that under control. And I'm thinking of the next piece that we're going to orchestrate all together, and just how different it is. Like it's just so bizarrely different in a way, and I mean, I hope it's not so different that a lot of people don't join up. But like, I think the potential there is to do something really amazing, and possibly just completely different from the style of the composer who composed it, or maybe in the style, and that would provide another challenge. So, with that cryptic remark, I will just say thank you so much for jumping in again with another one of your great scores, and us continuing this conversation. It's such a delight. And, for helping me help some desperate musicians, that counts for a lot too. I feel really good about the way that we were able to do something. It doesn't mean that the struggle is over for them. I'm going to try to continue supporting them somehow, but it was great that's just me personally. I'm just really glad that everybody was able to help this year with that. And, all you Patreon subscribers, participants, everybody, I really appreciate it. And the community who spread the word out there, my website subscribers and viewers, and everybody who also jumped on board with their own donations and everything else. And that's really appreciated. So thanks, everybody, for being part of this. It's really been an amazing year, even though a very disturbingly distracting one at times that didn't really go the way I needed it to go. But I mean, look, that's life, isn't it? It's what happens when you're making other plans. And with that cheery note, I will see everybody tomorrow with 3 more of these awesome scores. Thanks so much.